Please share the information provided in this video. Always remember that a crucial part of removing a person's confusion is understanding his or her unique source of it. What is an omnipotence paradox? Well, this question, can God create a rock too big for him to lift, is an omnipotence paradox. It's a paradox of omnipotence. It's a product of the idea of an omnipotent being, an all-powerful being, and it creates this paradoxical situation. Another example would be like, can God make a wall too powerful for him to knock down, or something like that? I don't know. Can he make a burrito too big for him to eat? You get it. What are some examples of omnipotence paradoxes? Oh, I just did those. Why do paradoxes matter? Paradoxes matter because they illustrate contradictory ideas that mean that things are impossible. For example, there are no married bachelors, because that's a paradox to be both married and bachelor, because basically that means you're married and unmarried. And so if you illustrate a paradox in the concept of God, that means God cannot exist. And sometimes people are fond of saying that, well, you can't disprove God because you can't prove a negative in the absolute. Actually, you can prove negatives in the absolutes. You can for sure prove that ideas which are paradoxical are negatives in the absolute. That there's no universe where there are married bachelors. There's no universe where, you know, things are true and not true. Let's see. Why do we talk about this in terms of rocks? That is an interesting question. Why don't we just say what it is? What we're saying is, does God have the ability to sort of exceed his abilities? You know, as we put it in the terms of making a rock, because making a rock sounds like something you do. But what we're asking is, does God have the ability to not be able to do something? Does he have the ability to lack ability? You know, I mean, that's ultimately, can God slit his wrist? Can God commit suicide? You know, what we're asking is, you know, in terms of the rock, we create this little story of God. You know, he goes out one day and he makes a little rock. But fundamentally what that means is, does God have the ability to not be able to do something? Now, the next question is, what is an analytic truth? We have David Hume, the Scottish atheist philosopher. He definitely was an atheist. I don't know if that's the proper term. I think he was a naturalist too. But David Hume gave us the terminology for analytic truths, which helps us in understanding something that people have understood forever, but he helped us with the terminology. 1 + 1 = 2 is an analytic truth, because when you say 1 + 1 = 2, you're simply analyzing 1 + 1 and 2 and understanding that they mean the same thing. So, all married men are married is an analytic truth. That's the law of identity, the first principle of philosophy. The second principle of philosophy is just all self-contradictory ideas cannot be true. So, just all... You say there's no married bachelors. There's no such thing as a married bachelor. When you say married bachelor, what you're saying is an unmarried married man. That's what bachelor means, unmarried. So you could, it's an analytic truth. Unmarried cannot be married. That's what you're saying. You can't be pregnant and not pregnant. So that's an analytic truth. Now the question for us is not having a power a power? And that's the interesting thing about the paradox. The omnipotence paradox suggests that the idea of omnipotence is paradoxical, but really it's the question, can God create a rock too big for him to lift, that's actually paradoxical. Because if we analyze that statement, what we're saying is, does God have the ability to not be able to do something, or does God have the power of not having a power? Now the question is that really a power? Does being all-powerful mean not having some power, not having some ability, some capability? It's obvious no. I mean, not having a power is not a power. So it's not can God do it, or is God able to do it. The issue is that something? Is that even a thing? Is not having a power? If I tell you that, you know, she's pregnant and she's not pregnant, will you think I answered your question about, you know, some girl? Like, you asked me, is she pregnant? And I say she's pregnant and she's not pregnant. Will you say, oh, okay, now I understand? No, you'll say that I gave you basically a meaningless jumble of words that doesn't make any sense. And when we say that God, you know, can He create a rock too big for Him to lift? Ultimately, that's a meaningless jumble of words, because we're saying, does God have the power of not having a power? Well, it's not a power. The question implies that it is, but it's not. Not having a power is not a power. So what that means is that this question is a complicated spin on giving a monkey a typewriter, in a sense, because when you give a monkey a typewriter, you're going to get meaningless letters. You're not going to get Shakespeare. And because we're humans and because we're smart, we can kind of twist it around and create this little story of rocks to make it seem like it has a meaning. But if you analyze it and look at the essence of what it's saying, it doesn't make any sense. How does this relate to the problem of evil? Well, the problem of evil is a question of, you know, why would God allow bad things to happen? Now, I've got another video about that if you want to watch it. But one of the questions people come up with is, well, couldn't God make us free and able to make choices to be good or evil, yet also make us always be good? So, you know, this is a question that came up actually when I was 14. This other friend of mine asked me this one time at school, you know, and I didn't know what to say. It just seemed weird, and, you know, being 14, I didn't give it probably enough thought. But fundamentally, it's the same omnipotence paradox. Can God create free, unfree beings? And so fundamentally, that's the issue. You know, we say, well, God, you know, needs to allow freedom to exist because God is a free being, therefore freedom is good, so God would create free beings. The issue is, well, could God create free beings that would never do anything wrong and there would still be no evil? You know, He's all-powerful, right? Well, that's not really a power. That's not really a thing. A free being that's also not free is a meaningless. That's not even something. What is that? What is an unfree free being? And that pretty much sums everything up. I hope you found this video informative and enjoyable. The new videos every Monday and Friday. Thank you for your time.